for the newsroom. We are glad you're watching Morning Express, and there are my guests this morning, looking happy. You still have you had a good night's sleep?
Yes, a bit chilly.
A bit chilly?
But you can't complain.
Okay, Martin.
Was that a general question? I mean,
yes, it was.
There are different kinds of nights anyways.
How was yours?
A bit stressful.
Yours was chilly. Yours was
good.
Good. Just.
Uneventful.
Uneventful.
Yeah.
It is important for a night.
I had someone say, "Sijui nilikuwa nimelala."
Well, it's a good thing not to know because you need to be sleeping at that particular time. But Martin Mutua, Joe Ageyo, Clay Muganda, thank you very much for joining us. You're asking about James. He's decided he's tired.
He wants to take a rest.
No, he's on break.
Yeah.
He's on break. But let's get to it. And the cleric who was killed yesterday, I remember seeing a tweet and somebody was asking, because he's been described, Idris, as Mohammed, as a moderate. And somebody was asking why there wasn't as much outrage as we saw with the other murders of Rogo and the likes, the more radical or controversial clerics. What are your thoughts? We begin with you, Clay. We heard from the president and the former prime minister, but in as far as, people coming out to, he's a moderate, he's the good guy in essence, but not too many people angry about him being killed.
For me, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, it just points to one thing, like insecurity. Because, bad guy, good guy, it's the duty of the state or of the law enforcement officers to ensure that nobody gets killed by unknown people. So if at all they find the killers of this person, I think also they should find the killers of the other people, because nobody, the message you're trying to send is that you're actually admitting that yes, this guy was a moderate. We were not responsible for his death. Those are the guys who are the opposite of moderate, so we were responsible for their death, for their deaths. And I think for me, it still points to the same thing. His life should have, if at all his life was in danger, something should have done to prevent his death. The cops, the police officers or the law enforcement officers should have actually acted on any reports that he made, and this should have been averted. Yeah,
because he had claimed that his life was in danger. Joe?
Well, I think there was outrage. It just depends from which direction.
Okay.
There was, I saw very interesting statements coming from the British High Commission, for instance, that was telling. There was a statement from the US Embassy. And I think that pointed to perhaps how significant this guy was in this whole fight against terrorism. And I think that the kind of outrage that you probably have in mind is all these riots and the sort of things we've seen. And that has to be understood in the context of what his constituency was and what the constituency of the other clerics who have been killed in similar circumstances were, because they're young people. For instance, the youths that are said to have kicked out people like Mohammed Idris from Sakina Mosque and even the former Masjid Musa. So there is that group that is said to be very restless about certain kinds of clerics who they are called moderates, and their problem seems to be that these people are working with government and police and all of these things. So I think it can be explained from the fact that there are a lot of people who supported the things that Mohammed Idris did, but they are not the sort of people who come out on the street to say we don't like this.
Martin?
Well, I think for me right now is members of the Muslim community need to take stock and audit of themselves. And I think they require the dialogue more than any other people. This is a time that they need to congregate and chart their way forward, because it seems there are lots of divisions within the Muslim society. I'm not saying that it's the Muslims who kill them, but there is need for them to hold discussion and debate and see where they're going, so that they can understand. Because as you say, why are we calling Idris a moderate, and then it means they are radicals on the other side? So there is need for them, if they are professing the same faith, there's need for them to come down and discuss issues and see how they're going to go. But on the flip side, there is also need for government to address this issue of insecurity. Because right now we can't say who killed Idris. We cannot pretend that we will lay blame on the radicals. It can go either way, so that you wouldn't know the motive until investigations are done and be able to come out with a clear picture. But the issue of insecurity, as we are seeing it, there is need for government to devise methods to see how they can forestall this problem. Because why are people running all over with motorbikes and shooting people? That does not make sense. You've seen even here on Mombasa Road, some guys with motorbikes robbing guys here, just at will, and they move on. So there is need for government to devise new ways on how they can handle insecurity and how they can tackle some of these things, because it's getting totally out of hand.
Yeah, and it's being reported he had been preaching in the mosque for the Sakuda Mosque 30 years thereabout, and that some of the other clerics are said to be on the radical side. And so the question of radicalization then again comes back to the fore, because in the past there have been, even when there was the destruction of the church, other killings, the radical clerics are known. That is no secret. So the government, in as far as their role in this, so you know these are the people that are preaching the wrong message. And as the media, what then does everybody need to do? Because if you know where the problem is, this is what is changing the young people, getting them into this thinking this is the way life should be, this is the way things should work, and it's not right. Do we just sit and watch things as they unfold?
I think that's the criticism that a lot of people have leveled on the government, that even people like Abu Drogo, for example, we don't know who killed him up until now, but there are many people who tell you that there had been reports about the sort of messages that he'd been preaching. He didn't like preach in some bedroom. He was out there on the streets in a mosque.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knew what he was saying in those places. But then there's one who raised a question. There's a time that he was charged on terrorism-related offenses and all of that. But at the end of the day, you don't get that forthright approach by the government that says, oh, these are the guys who are doing this. But I guess it's because, religion is a very complicated thing. Where do you draw the line between that freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and all of that, and hate message? It's not a simple thing.
But we're talking about killing other people and people who have no rights, because yes, it's a sensitive subject, but when it infringes on some people being looked at as, kafiris or people who are not supposed to be, then there are not questions that are important to raise, even as far as human rights are concerned.
No, they are without a doubt. I just don't know whether there is anyone in government right now who knows how to
the media?
The media, we give credit to us. We've been pointing out how have people come to know they're radicals and they're moderates. It's because the media which has come up with all this. So it's also up to the government in terms of the intelligence to be able to know what are these preachings that are being carried out in various churches or mosques or wherever. Because even in the Christian world, there are priests who are also radicals, you can say, who also preach stuff. But does that, what are the implications of the kind of preaching that go on? So it's up to the state, the government, to weigh in and see whether there are messages which are perceived to be hate speeches, which after the preaching, there are effects that you can see that something is happening after that, and they be able to draw the line. But like Joe is saying, when you go to a church or you go to a mosque, religion is a very touchy subject, and you would not really be sure whether if this priest is on the pulpit, he has immunity. He can say whatever he wants to say. But then how do you draw the line? But if it's insightful messages that are coming out of that, you have ways of dealing with that, and that's where the government comes in. The media can only point out that or report of a message that has been aired by a certain preacher, but we can only do that much. The rest is a matter of government.
But I think also, you asked about the media. I think right now, as the situation is, I think the government, the government or the authorities need to come out, because the other killings that you pointed out, I think yesterday in the KTN or KTN News Bulletin, I think they said like 21 Muslim clerics have been killed over a period of time, and I think four Christians, yeah, something like that. And none of them, nobody has come forward, none of them, the government has never actually found who killed them. And this was the first time when actually the government, by that I mean Mr. Kenyatta, actually sent a message of condolence to this particular guy. So unless they're telling us like, okay, fine, we were responsible for the other people, this one we are not responsible, or what they need to do is to conduct all the investigations and actually tell us like, okay, fine, this is what happened. And I think that's where probably the media needs to come out and keep on push for this the whatevers of these investigations, the report from all these investigations, because you cannot just keep on saying like we are conducting investigations.
It takes a lot of political courage, honestly, to go after people of a certain sort. Look at some of the political rallies that we have seen. I mean, you hear people complaining like, oh, there was a lot of hate speech. Who is that one person who has been pursued and arrested? Like, yeah, you said this and this at that rally. Because then the whole thing perhaps will become so political, and they'll say, well, this is a crackdown against freedom of speech, expression, and all of the other rights enshrined in the Constitution. So at the end of the day, I think it takes a certain amount of political courage. If you believe that this is the right thing that ought to be done, then why should you be worried? Why are they not going after people? I mean, how can you have the government complaining like everyone else? I mean, if the government is complaining, we're supposed to do something about it.
They're complaining.
I mean, we have strange things happening in this country right now. You find the president himself will say, oh, there's corruption in my office. You find another minister saying, oh yeah, there are all these radical preachers.
Corruption
another
is fighting back and stuff.
I mean, so who's supposed to do something about it?
Who's going to deal with this? Wow, interesting. Well,
are they throwing the whatever back to the media, like, okay, fine, should we take charge then?
I was listening to a conversation and someone was saying, did you see that thing that the president was writing in the other day? And then, all of us have said, you need to be vigilant. Like all of us, we're supposed to be vigilant.
That's a conversation we need to have, because for me, I don't think it sends a very good message.
No, first of all, the thing is ugly. That's one thing. It's ugly.
It sent the wrong message.
Ugly. First of all,
for me, it sent a very wrong message in terms of showing that
things are bad.
We are totally insecure, that we have to secure our president very heavily. So what message are you sending?
But if there are threats to the president's life, so in showing that whether Tunguyas should not be
well, nobody has told us there is.
But
we're only guessing because we saw that thing.
Security matters are not those to stand and say, now we want to brief you on who's under who's being threatened. That's not the way it works.
Yes, it is that thing. I mean, such Wilson called it a monstrosity. I mean,
when you enter Nyayo Stadium, we are screened thoroughly. There is no, and the place is always secured even a day before or 2 days before.
Okay.
Why would you bring the president with an ugly thing and cover him up? Yet the beauty of such events has been where some guys actually go to watch these ceremonial things. Forget about the talks that are go on in there. They love to go and watch the president on that Land Rover ceremonial.
But they saw him.
No, not you. They saw him in a cage.
And he was waving like he's behind something. Okay.
Please, I hope and the military never ever bring that thing back.
Because then
limelight at all.
And then you come out after that and say Kenya is safe, calm, tourist.
They should please. I beseech Uhuru Kenyatta never to ride in that thing. That thing is ugly first, and it sends a wrong message. It should never happen. And then you bring in some armored vehicles with hooded guys so that you'd send an extremely bad message that this country is totally unsafe.
I'm thinking this can be looked at in two ways. I don't know. Forgive me, guys.
So what if tomorrow every cabinet secretary starts riding in that sort of thing? I mean, because what is the level of safety for any one of us? I mean, you say some things on air that maybe a lot of people don't like. Maybe you should have one for yourself.
I know. Please organize our Morning Express.
No. I don't think on such a day anybody would want to kill Uhuru Kenyatta. That place.
That is the
is
Perfect for
totally...
terrorists to be the event.
No, but they've already secured the place a day or two before.
Yes,
and
true.
you've screened everybody.
Right.
And the place is... there's nobody who has any imagination that that kind of thing would happen. See, they even did away with those flying planes. Why would they do that? Would the guy shoot the president as well? I'm telling you, there are people, a majority of guys we've interviewed, some of them just want to go and see the parade, how the military, it is a good thing.
But that is, allow me to play the devil's advocate here, that is operating from a place of, the Kenyans who just want to go and see the president. The terrorists are not reading from the same script. They don't have that goodwill, not in that celebratory mood. They're always looking for the event and the kind of catastrophe that will capture the world's attention.
So you are confirming that it is very insecure.
No, we're just saying there are loopholes. Seal them if they can be sealed. Somebody would argue.
If not, get that thing.
Get that thing.
but I think the authorities or the government has always been saying Kenya is safe. Kenya is safe.
Yeah.
And for them to come actually with the president in all those things and all that, I think they were actually admitting that it is not safe. It's insecure.
The president was in rallies in Kisii. Why wasn't he covered in those things? You saw him on top of his Land Rover. Is that it says in Kisii is very safe.
But also
there was a multitude of people, and he's on top. He's been riding when they are going to rallies. They're on top of Land Rovers. It is if we want to even bring confidence to the people and even to the investors and the tourists, let's not show that this country is totally insecure up to the hilt. Yeah. We must start building confidence, and because even you see people will cooperate. But when you give this kind of image, you're scaring even the common man to the extent that if they also start feeling insecure, and it sends a very totally wrong message.
Yeah, that reminds Kenyans of when the Cabinet Secretary Interior, was in the streets,
Yeah, saying it's safe.
Quite a number of bodyguards and saying it's safe, Kenyans. These are our streets.
But also another angle to this thing. How much did this thing?
When you're trying to tell Kenyans that it's safe,
it's
not the day.
How much did that thing cost, first of all? That thing, Mr. Kenyatta.
The ugly thing or the other one?
Yes, the ugly thing, those two things there. How much did they cost? I think that is also because where did they come from? I mean, we'd still
Canada.
This 55 or 50 million that we're being told. It has not come officially from the official sources. So how much did this thing cost? When was it ever brought in? You see, such kind of things also we need to know, because first of all, we've been told that we are broke. People need to cut down on wages. Wages need to be cut down. There's a national dialogue on cutting down the wage bill.
There's no dialogue like that.
There was something like that.
There was a while back.
So here is a case
with the president taking a pay cut which has not been
you
implemented
tell
yet.
us that, and then the following day, 2 months down the line, you bring something, and we've not been told how much did it cost. Was it a part of Mr. Kenyatta's vote? Like a part of the budget of State House or something like that. We don't know how much it costs.
Well, matters to do with security, I wouldn't query, because when it comes to issues to do with security matters, especially for the president and his deputy, those ones you can't compromise. There's a budget for that. There's a vote which they can spend. But I think I'm looking at the bigger picture. They can buy whatever they want if they think they can to secure the president. But right now, we are in a crisis in the country in terms of insecurity and in terms of investor confidence. We have to give an image that this country is secure, not parade things like we are going it's an occupational army going on some kind of war.
If anything, actually, he could even have walked probably from, there's a time I think he walked from one office to another. You could probably have done that to show people like, okay, fine, Kenya is safe. I think that, but, come on.
We want to take a short break, and we'll try and talk about this. And also, as we take the break, think about what we have a commentary from Maina Mwangi. The guys on Morning Express need to be objective. Nothing is wrong with the president being driven in a safe car. Gadara says Kenyan media has been complicit in covering up the killing and disappearance of people at the coast. Gadara, justify that. Send me a tweet and we will read it and put it to the gentleman on set. Don't go away. Morning Express returns in a short while. Good morning and welcome back to Morning Express. It is 7:42 a.m. We are analyzing the big stories that have been making headlines with what I like to call peeps in the industry. media industry, including my boss, were just called up people. But the newsroom is what we're having right now. And gentlemen, I wanted to talk about Waiguru for a while. And Defiant MP set date for Waiguru's censure is the headline in today's Standard, and the other dailies have covered this as well. It's a story that has been developing for a while. So this just made it finally to the Speaker. So initially it was all talk. It was just politics. There was no process that had been rolled out, okay, other than the signatures. But have we painted the full picture for our viewers or readers, listeners, as far as how this will play out, is likely to play out?
Well, I want to believe right now the MPs who are supporting it are having breakfast at Pan-Afric. That's what Linturi invited them yesterday. And I think what we need to understand is that Parliament has a mandate in terms of any member can bring a motion. I don't know why it's being made such a huge thing. It's only that because the executive has come in to try and defend Waiguru. But in terms of the process, any member of Parliament can initiate a motion to impeach or to censure any cabinet minister, or including even the president himself. So it is Parliament has a duty, and they can do it. So the problem is, I think there has not been, this distinction of separation of powers is what is now killing us, because we do not know, we cannot draw a line between where the executive starts and where Parliament's work begins. But Parliament has its own mandate.
But I think it's worrying in the sense that if right now, there's been talk of several other cabinet secretaries lined up for the firing squad, as it were. Fred Matiang'i, for instance, I've heard people talk about him, that somehow he said something at some meeting in Kisii, and therefore some MPs are angry. At what point do we start going the route of the MCAs and the impeachment and everything? I think there is a lot of dishonesty in our politics that sometimes you get quite upset about it. That I don't know what the real issues may be with Waiguru or Matiang'i or whatever, but I think we also have to get to that point where people are honest about why they want to take certain actions against a cabinet secretary, because those people have their job, they're working.
As the media, are we pressing these people with emotions to get those answers?
No, but look, as Martin says, when it comes to a story like that, it is clear they have a mandate as members of Parliament to do what they are doing. But I think someone has got to ask that question: are they doing it for the right reasons, and where do you stop? Because the other day they were pushing for the president for there to be a consideration of having members of Parliament serving in the cabinet, perhaps an amendment to the constitution and things like that. That sort of tells you that there might be something else other than just the reasons that were being given why they are going for these cabinet secretaries. Maybe there's someone out there who's feeling a little bit left out in the cold.
Because,
And I think there is some motion or a bill which is coming up whereby at least they want now to, in the past we've had cabinet ministers coming to answer questions in Parliament. Which I think for me was a better idea. And I think I've seen a proposed motion, a bill which some member wants to amend the standing order so that they can allow the cabinet secretaries to be coming to Parliament and answering questions. I think that would be a better way, because you will now give even the cabinet secretaries a chance to be able to explain things themselves. I think if Waiguru had a chance before Parliament, she could have stated maybe her case. But you see, she's out there in the
media is here.
No,
to give those no. You try talking to any of those cabinet secretaries. A lot of them are very scared to talk about this. Who wants to speak, and then tomorrow all the MPs are going to be very angry, and you are not there to defend yourself.
But isn't it interesting, Clay, that despite after the PG in State House, Duale talking about we've urged Linturi, and there's been a lot of pressure. The deputy president saying, ask us, not the junior officer. That he's still going ahead with this despite all that kind of effort to get him to drop it.
I think what Joe says is that there's a lot of dishonesty in our politics, in as much as you don't know what actually she did to the MPs. But at the same time, even the people who are defending her, even the people who are defending her, they're not giving, what are the reasons for defending her? They're not saying like, okay, these are our reasons, and this is why probably you should not do it. We don't know. Linturi keeps on speaking left, right, and center, and the main thing that comes out is that, I mean, arrogance is not a crime. I mean,
no, but if I am going to present some motion, bill, whatever it is in Parliament, why should someone come and tell me, don't do it, whatever, unless you really didn't know why you wanted to do it. So Linturi, I think Linturi is just trying to stay true to whatever his mission is. We don't know what it is, but he's saying, I mean, I have been collecting these signatures, and there was a ruling yesterday that you can't withdraw any of those signatures.
He said,
that's what the rules
say. You don't withdraw.
So once you sign your name there, it will go ahead. You can't say, I met someone at State House or whatever, now I'm changing my mind. It doesn't work like that.
But is that picture clear? You've talked about, yes, there could be witch hunts with these kind of processes. You know, we saw the MCAs very excited with the impeachment, whole thing about impeachment, and then now we are seeing members of parliament as well. But we have an understanding in terms of what really it takes. Do our viewers have that? Are we as the media breaking it down that, yes, there could be politics, but we understand what this is based on? Everyone is talking about Rugut, but is it just that, the message, and that she moved him? That's it?
I think when Linturi finally gets a chance to move the motion, he will be able to do that.
Okay. And the media will air it.
And we will definitely have it.
Well said.
We can't start we can't start live. We can't start discussing the motion. We can't start discussing the motion from outside, and it's him who knows what evidence or what he has also to convince the members of parliament that for sure this cabinet secretary warrants to be impeached because of 1-2 reasons, and the members of parliament will have to debate. There are 349 members in there, so he has to convince at least not less than 117 about whether that process should go through. So the onus is on him. If he doesn't do any good job, then, and Waiguru also has a chance. He needs to also lobby members. That's the beauty of parliament. You can lobby members, and that's allowed. She has an opportunity to lobby other members to give her side of the story, and they can present it in parliament. So I don't see any big deal. I do not really understand why we
will watch and see as the events unfold. Let's talk national dialogue. It has become the 2 words that I've been hearing quite a bit, and dialogue, discord, if you like.
Isn't that what we are having here?
There needs to be somebody not in agreement so that we can see why we are in agreement.
And the president was at a dialogue yesterday.
I
mean, I find it really funny because the thing was called Pamoja National Dialogue Forum.
Dialogue is happening.
Yeah, okay, this is interesting because the president was there, but not the dialogue that you had in mind.
That court is looking for.
But Mr. Raila said yesterday, I think on some network, TV station, that he called Mr. Kenyatta the other day and they talked for 1 hour. He said that they talked about very many issues. So I'm wondering.
But one of the dailies today, they're already having dialogue. But what's also interesting is one of the dailies is reporting that he says, actually it is a Standard on page 6, I have secrets on security system. This is Raila saying. So he's saying he has secrets which he cannot share with the media. But then doesn't that cup of tea, isn't that the best place to talk about the secrets? Because then national dialogue, you'll not stand at a platform with all the stakeholders and everybody and say, well,
maybe in terms of security. Maybe he told the president on phone. Who knows?
Because he said they chatted for 1 hour.
So then we are good. Did he also say we are good? We've moved past, they've had the dialogue?
He still says that they need to talk. And actually that thing of security, he says like there's some other things that he cannot get into nitty-gritties because they're very sensitive. So that's why they need this. And that aside, my only problem is that there's so many people who actually are not taking Mr. Raila on what he says, but actually taking him on what they think he wants. Because I don't think you gentlemen might know, does the constitution give a provision for a coalition government? Does it? Because I see a lot of stuff on new media, the strategists for the so-called strategists for the government and all that, complaining that what Raila wants is a coalition government. And I don't think, does the constitution still give that? Why don't you give this guy the dialogue? And then if you feel that you don't agree with whatever you're saying, then you refuse, because what is coming out is the government is admitting, like, when this guy comes to have a dialogue with us, he's going to twist us and we're going to agree to whatever he says. Why don't you give him the dialogue? Then you disagree, and then you say like, no, the talks we could not continue the talks because we could not agree with what you wanted.
But I mean, let's be realistic here, Clay. Come on. I mean, which government is that is going to where someone comes and say you must meet us by this day? If you don't,
Mr. Kenyatta at some point
I don't know any.
I'm ready for the
dialogue.
I don't know any government that will do that in
but
the world.
Mr. Kenyatta said that at some point that I'm ready for dialogue. Didn't he say that?
He's ready, but as Joe is saying,
which government in the world will say, "Oh, okay, yeah, the opposition said we should meet before Sabasaba, otherwise we'll be in trouble." It will never happen. I'm not holding my breath that Mr. Kenyatta will one day call a press conference and say, "Tomorrow we are going to have a dialogue." Never, it will never.
But why did at some point he said that I'm ready for the dialogue, whatever it was? Then 24 hours later,
he's been having a few. That phone call, it was at Safari Park yesterday. Maybe that's what he meant.
There's been all these things. You actually summarized the whole thing. There's a lot of dishonesty in our politics. So even from Mr. Raila's camp, even from Mr. You don't know actually who is saying the truth, because I was very surprised when Mr. Raila said yesterday that he talked with his.
But that said, I think what's shocking for me is I personally do not think that the government will call these people and say we are going to have some dialogue at Uhuru Park, whatever it is. They will never do that. But what I find extremely shocking is how it looks to me like the government is playing into the hands of these guys, because they're having their own rallies running around.
There's a whole timetable.
So it's almost as if the code people are setting the agenda and the government is following.
Yeah.
In fact, I was even more perplexed when I heard some people say in Kisii that, if they have Sabasaba, we will also have. What more would an opposition party love than that
setting
kind of
the
thing?
agenda and
they're
the
saying we're going to have one, and the government saying we are going to have a parallel rally. And, that's really shocking for me. I just don't know whether someone in there knows what politics is about.
Martin, shouldn't they have continued with what they say they had planned for a National Dialogue Conference rebirth next month? And you have all these leaders they were to invite, international and local. Go ahead with that. Instead of saying, we are cancelling it because of politicization, because they've cancelled it, but politicization has not been sorted out. They'll continue shouting about it.
Trust me, the court opposition are having a field day.
Yes.
Okay.
The government has gotten themselves into the right basket where the opposition want them, and they are playing into their hands very well. The Jubilee government strategists need to get on the drawing board. They are losing every opportunity, because why would the opposition come with this kind of situation? Believe you me, if Uhuru Kenyatta, the danger is if Uhuru Kenyatta accedes to this kind of arrangement, it means you will have suspended all the mechanisms of the Constitution, and you will now start arguing on the sidelines of the Constitution. And what more demands will you not accede to when you're asked by the opposition to? Because you will now have sidelined everything else, and you will be moving with this direction. And that is what the opposition wants. And they're putting you squarely into that basket. And if you see whatever they're doing, as Joe says, they are reacting now every other minute to whatever the opposition
now he's been said to have cancelled his trip to Addis.
Well, that he can do that. You see, that's
because he needs to stay at home.
I can't discuss that because I'm not so sure. But
apparently,
they're doing it the wrong way.
Right.
If they are giving the opposition fodder to be able to deal with them, because they are opening all the loopholes for them. If they were doing everything according to script in terms of what they were elected, they promised Kenyans to do, I don't think the opposition will have anything to do with that. Look at the issue of Anglo leasing. Look at the issue of the laptops. Look at we are going into the budget. They have given opposition enough material to deal with them. The other day you took part of the money from the laptop and you paid for Anglo leasing. In this budget for tomorrow, you have added more money for the laptops, yet you have not said what you've done with the other. That is enough material for opposition to deal with you.
deal with.
So there are lots. Then the issue of insecurity, whereby you are not dealing in terms of how what is happening in the country. You're giving opposition enough material to work on you.
To work.
So they hold a rally, and you also say now you're also having your rally. So who is gaining here? The opposition is gaining ground, and they are happy with this kind of arrangement. So it's up to the Jubilee government now to change tact and be able to deal with this matter in a different way. They should not be looked as if they are reactionary to the opposition. Otherwise, they will continue being placed in that basket, and they will react to the opposition until we get to 2017.
All right, gentlemen, stay with us. We're going to take a short break and wind up the conversation when we return. You're watching Morning Express. This is the newsroom. Heated conversation, not very. You guys need to disagree a little bit more. We'll be back in a short while. Yeah.